Good morning, everyone. We'll give everyone a few more moments to come on, log in, and then we'll get started. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and start moving forward. I have a lot of slides to get through, and I want to make sure I get a chance to answer everyone's questions. I'm actually going to set my timer here so I can give everyone time to ask questions. We're going to ask questions. You can ask questions throughout the presentation. Some of the things we may have to park in a parking lot for a little bit later, but we're going to try to get through as much as we can today. All right, and with that said, here we go. So, hello everyone. My name is Andre Hargrave. I am the director of the MBC, Minority Business Center, which is operated by the MBDA, the Minority Business Development Agency. We're a federally funded organization, and we're here to help small, socially disadvantaged, and economically disadvantaged businesses grow and expand. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk a little bit about building relationships with major corporations and governmental entities. And I'm going to go into a little bit of how I know about this subject, some of the things that I've done, and we'll go from there. Now, one of the things, I have a lot of slides. We're not going to harbor on any of them. I have a lot of things to kind of talk about as far as putting this kind of relationship together. Okay. All right, so here's a little bit about the MBDA. Here's our declaration as a federal agency. We were declared a federal agency itself on in 2021. The organization in name, the MBDA, has been around for 30 plus years. So it has a good track record. It's been around for a very long time. But as I stated, it finally became its own federal agency in 2021 with a line item in the congressional budget. Here's a little bit of other things: our vision, our mission, and strategy as far as helping diverse businesses. These slides will be available, and you can feel free to request them, and they will be available. So what we're going to talk about today is how to build relationships with governmental and corporate entities. And what we're really gonna talk about a little bit is about this relationship thing, because I think a lot of times people kind of have the concept a little mislabeled, right? So a lot of times when we build relationships with organizations, we're building it person to person opposed to business to entity. And so they act differently and they are differently. Just like if you register a company, you can register a company as an LLC, or you can register it as a corporation. A corporation is its own living entity. A LLC is still the owners with a pass-through for taxation. We're not going to touch that today, but I just wanted to let you know there is a difference. Here's a little bit about me and why I'm teaching this course today. One of the big things that I'll talk about is Global Sales Advisors. That's the firm that I own. I have since 1999. So we do an enormous amount with governmental entities. The other thing that I'm going to point to on the screen is the very bottom one, not the bottom one, actually the third one from the bottom, fourth one from the bottom, Director of Certification for the Rocky Mountain Minority Supplier Development Council. Very, very important, because if you know anything about the RMMSDC, we're part of the National Minority Supplier Development Council, which we actually are housed in here in South Denver. And so that part of the organization only deals with Fortune level corporations. It certifies minority businesses, but it's designed to help minority businesses interact with Fortune level corporations. And I used to be the director of certification and business development for that organization many years ago. So I'm very familiar with how that organization operates and what it's designed to do. Now, let's get to this, right? I hear this every day. I'll sit down with about 500 companies a year, right? Through trainings, through consulting sessions, all of these elements. I sit down with a lot of companies. And a lot of times people will come up to me and say, you know what they say, people buy from who they know, like, and trust without really understanding what that term even means, right? So what I wanted to do was just let everybody know where it came from. It actually originated in a book from 1993. The book is called Endless Referrals by Bob Berg. That's where that phrase came from. And it denoted um, services and products that were more commoditized. You know, it kind of denoted more of like getting referrals for insurance, getting referrals from different, those kind of businesses, opposed to at the level that a lot of us are looking at and playing in. So just want to put that out there. Feel free to get the book. I actually have it on Audible. It is it's narrated fairly well, right? It's not a dry narration, so it's not a bad book. But feel free to get that book, right? But I wanted everyone to know. So first of all, let's put that aside, because when I purchased my house 15 years ago, whatever it was, I didn't necessarily like my real estate agent, right? And after I bought the house, I never saw the real estate agent again. So it ain't like I knew her or really liked her or even trusted her, because when I knew what I knew is once I signed out on that dotted line, we would never talk again. And we didn't. So beware of how we say things, because then we start to live it, right? So you got to be a little cautious about some of those things, right? Now, what I'm going to concentrate in on is the most effective thing out here. That's what I'm going to concentrate on. Like I said, feel free to ask questions. Yes, there will be, I will send the PowerPoint out, so you will be getting a copy of it. So the most effective things. So the most effective things from my experience and from working with all these different organizations and a lot of the seminars and webinars that I've even went to or even performed in is, on a small scale, they are the most effective, because we're talking about building relationships here, right? And um, guest speaking events and all of these kind of things. This is where we initiate that relationship. That's what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about initiating a relationship as you, not as networking, right? We're not talking about networking. I have a slide for that, but we're not talking about networking. And there's a reason we're not talking about it. We're talking about actually building relationships and those kind of things. Articles and client-oriented press, because we're targeting a very specific audience. And if you don't really understand who you're trying to target, that's where things go awry, right? And I'm going to explain to you a little bit why that is. Proprietary research, let's just hold that thought. Capability briefings, or what you would, in the old school world where I came from, we call them sales meeting. In the governmental arena, we call them capability briefings. So we'll talk about that later. Now, the next list is two of the things I actually use on a consistent basis, but according to all publications, documents, and all that kind of stuff, they do not work. But let me explain that. So least effective is brochures, direct mail, mailings, emails, those kind of elements, untargeted, unsolicited cold calls, advertising, radio, otherwise, right? You don't really see anything on social media here, because that really hasn't been reviewed, documented, and those kind of things. So it's really not a lot of data on how much of that converts. But you do see the asterisks behind brochures and untargeted, unsolicited cold calls. Here's why. Everything works in volume. Everything works to a degree. Absolutely everything does. What you have to do is measure out what you're doing opposed to the results that's coming on it, right? Direct mail is still a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? So be it that we throw them away or what, it's still a and people wouldn't continue to do it if it didn't work. But let's say that you do all of these elements, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is getting in the room. This is everything. And if you're one of those individuals who go, well, Andre, I get in the room, but nothing happens. Well, Andre, I can't get in the room. Well, Andre, whatever. So one of the first things we have to realize is at a certain level, right? And I have nothing against chambers whatsoever. There's different types of chambers. There's different levels of membership in chambers. I know this because I used to also belong to chambers, right? And I would buy the gold membership or the platinum membership. And at a certain point, you get so high in the membership where they tell you you cannot market in that membership. It is not designed for networking and shaking hands, right? So it really kind of depends on how you want to play in this game. I belong to organizations where absolutely, if you got caught marketing, they will expel you because at that highest level of Fortune level corporations and executive directors and major corporations, that concept is not allowed, right? And we can touch base on that. But first, let's talk about getting in the room because you have to get in the room with the people that you're seeking to target, right? And then once you get in that room, we have to decide, why are you here? Why are you in this room? So I've been invited to a lot of baseball games, football games. I've sat in uh box seats and suites at the game and all of those kind of things. And I was invited, right? And it's a different type of networking. It's a different type of environment. And we're talking about building those relationships and how do we do that? But first we got to get in the room. So let me just explain how you get in the room and what room you're trying to get into. That's really, really important, right? So there's different types of events. So a lot of us, we mistakenly make the mistake of going to a networking event or something to that effect, shaking hands with someone. And the first thing you have to remember at a networking event, everybody's looking to sell you something because you're looking to sell them something, right? So there's really no exchange of rapport and those kind of elements because everybody's trying to pitch, and there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of times, depending on what you're marketing and selling, that works. But if we're talking about, and for this argument, we're talking about multi-million-dollar deals. We're not talking um $50,000 deals. And that's a good amount for some companies, but that's not this level of relationship building. So first thing we want to talk about is there's different types of events. And most of us go to the wrong type of event to do the wrong type of marketing, just so you know, and we're going to touch on those different types of events. So usually when I go to an event and I'm shaking hands, I'm a little bigger guy. So my style of networking is very secondary. So I use a very passive way of marketing within an event. So I'll go to an event and I'll walk that event and I'll make eye contact with major corporations that are there or agencies and those kind of things, but I won't hit them up yet, right? I'm gonna use that lesser phrase. I don't hit them up yet because what I'm doing is I'm gonna pick up a little information, I'm gonna get an idea of what they do, right? I'll see them, we'll acknowledge each other, and by the third time I come around, there's an element of familiarity with this guy. This guy didn't just walk up and start asking you questions about what you do and I don't know, and I'm gonna get this canned pitch. I can tell you some funny stories about those canned pitches, right? Just for this one story, I once was at an event and I was like 15, 16 people back getting up to this table. And I actually knew the people at the table. I knew the agency at the table. I listened to that agency give the same pitch like 13, 14 times. The same pitch, nothing different, nothing special, nothing, right? And you all get the same pitch and you walk away thinking that, oh, that's a great person. I met that person, da 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 da. No, you didn't, right? That person's not going to remember you because one, you didn't break the spiel, right? You didn't hit them with something that was unique or different. And yeah, you left your card, right? And there's a whole stack of another 50 cards there, right? But I'm going to remember you. There was no leave behind from your point of view, right? We'll talk about all those little things here soon, but just to know there's different types of events. You have to know why you're attending the event. I go to a lot of events where there's salespeople, and I'll go, hey, why are you here, right? And I'll give you a glaring example of how I know when I'm dealing with a good salesperson or not. No offense to salespeople, because I'm one myself theoretically, right? Um, I'll see a salesperson from a major global corporation, and they're at a small business event. And I go, hey, why are you here, ex global corporation? And they'll go, oh, we're trying to do business with whoever, right? And the first thing I go is you're not supposed to, I don't say it to them, but you're not supposed to be here. You know that all this stuff is set aside for small businesses. And these people that you're talking to legally aren't even supposed to be sharing information with you because they're allocated to small business and not to global corporations. But the salespeople don't know that, which lets me know they're at the wrong type of event. They've been given the wrong guidance. And I'll give that salesperson 6 months to a year and they'll be looking for a new job because they're not going to be productive, right? But you always have to understand the events that you're at. Do your homework. As I stated, you know, people like to talk to people that's on the same level as them. And a lot of times when we approach executives, we come at a lesser level. We really do. And the reason we come at a lesser level, one is because we're trying to sell, and two, we don't have a lot of confidence in what we actually do. So even our whole spiel is incorrect. So when you come to me as technically as a director level individual up under a federal charter, you come talking to me as if I'm another small business and I'm not, right? And so the first thing that happens in my mind, I associate what level you're playing at, right? And then people want to know, well, Andre, you know someone at Buckley Air Force Base, you know someone at IBM. Yeah, I do. Man, I've been trying to get into IBM for a long time. Well, good luck, right? Because what I've associated as you isn't at the level that I'm willing to put my reputation on the line to make that introduction. Now, everybody does this. Everybody does this, right? But what we're going to try to do is clean this up for you. So when someone's trying to build a relationship with me, since I understand the dynamics of it, I know what's going on. But however, sometimes I become very offended when people come to me and they want to artificially build this relationship with me, right? They want to come to me and we don't really have too much to talk about because there's no rapport established. And they go, Andre, do you play golf? No, I don't play golf. Hey, Andre, yeah, you want to do lunch? No, I don't want to do lunch. Hey, we should grab coffee. Why? Right? Because no rapport has been built. Right? And so recovering from that is a lot of times difficult and only can be done through time, right? So just hear me out on these, right? Have a goal in mind for each individual you speak with, right? What are you trying to ascertain from me uh, if I am an executive of a major corporation or a big corporation or just someone you're trying to do business with? What are you trying to ascertain? And I bet you what you're trying to ascertain is incorrect, right? So what you're trying to do is figure out if I buy your product. Eh, I think a bigger question is, Andre, what do you do so you can figure out where your product fits so we can have an intellectual conversation about it? There's a difference there, right? Having a professional lead behind, such as talking points, your brochure, or whatever. I walk into major corporations and pitch my firm's services with nothing, mainly because I'm old school that way. I come from that world, right? Well, I'll walk in and like I told a major corporation not long ago that we're still moving forward on possibly hiring my firm, that if I walk in and I can't explain what I do well enough to get you to understand, I don't deserve your business. And I truly believe that in my heart because I work with a lot of companies and I say, what do you do? And they can't explain to me what they do. And so you're not building a relationship with me. You're just justifying what my thoughts were that you don't really know what you do, right? But before you start throwing stuff at me, let's move on, okay? Let's get into the federal arena first, then we'll hit corporate. So federal, if you want to meet, and I just had this conversation yesterday, just had it yesterday, right? So if you want to meet decision makers, executives, decision makers, or what we call stakeholders in the governmental space, there are certain places where you can meet them. And there's a lot of places you can't meet them because you're not invited. So when we talk about places to start establishing a relationship, we have procurement fairs, right? And there are other slides that explain who's at these procurement fairs that's following. We won't get too much into that, but it's for your own knowledge. Procurement fair, town halls, small business outreach events. Hold on. Pre-solicitations, pre-bid events, contractor meet and greet sessions, mandatory pre-bid small business networking events. There's reverse procurement fairs, there's small business forums, there's industry events. Now, the thing is there's different people who attend all these types of events from in corporate world and in the governmental space. Now, you got to remember, we're looking for decision makers, executives, right? And so those are the individuals who you're trying to meet, but a lot of times we don't want to meet them. We want to meet the individuals who are friendly to us. This is true. We want to meet the individuals who's going to shake our hands and kind of just be nice to us. But then a lot of times we have to understand that those individuals don't write checks. They don't write checks, right? So if those aren't the individuals that write checks, when we go to these events and we meet them, what's the goal? Their goal is to use them as a referral base to meet the people who write the checks so we can build a relationship with those individuals, right? Sounds like a lot, but it ain't that hard. I'll show you why in just a second here, right? Now, next step. Let's say you go to a pre-solicitation meeting. And if you're not in the governmental space, we'll call it a walkthrough at an event or something like that, right? You go there. Now, you have department heads there because it's an actual contract that's going to be let. There's department heads. There's stakeholders, which are other agencies or departments that will also benefit from the work that's going to be done, right? There's contracting officers who actually are warranted and they sign contracts and checks for the United States government or for a state agency. That would be a buyer, though. And then you have end users, and they're there because it's an event and they get to come, right? However, what we will gravitate to is we're going to gravitate to the contracting officer, right? But what you have to understand, the contracting officer is only going to act upon what they've been told to act upon by the department heads and the stakeholders, right? So that's one of the big things, and I need to plug my laptop in here as I speak, right? That's one of the big things I don't think a lot of people actually realize is the hierarchy of when you're talking to these governmental or large corporations. So what I tell people is real simple. You're going to go to the event, you see the department heads, you get their card. Yeah, you don't have to bother them. You got to get their card, right? And here's why. You don't have to pitch them on what you do because you'll see some people hog people's time. Nobody likes that. Just so you know, don't do that. Nobody likes that, right? But you get that stakeholders card, right? You may go, hey, Andrea Hargrave, Global Sales Advisors, nice to meet you. I appreciate you putting on this event. Thank you, right? And you get that information. Here's why. Because now we're going to talk about establishing the rapport, establishing the relationship. The rapport is built on the knowledge that you have of what me as that executive knows and what going on in my organization. Some of you all are going, well, I don't know what's going on in your organization. That's why I'm at this event, right? That's fair. Now you got my card. You know what you do, right? And you know what problems you solve and the equipment or services or whatever, you know why people buy that service, right? So if nothing else, you can talk to me about, hey, just for this argument, I make squishy toys, right? Just for this argument. Your people that, and you may not think anything of it, but, people get really stressed. And so that's one of the things that we specialize in. But, I see you got a lot of people here, but I have your information. Thank you. Right? One, that person appreciates you, let them off the hook. They really appreciate it, right? You got 50 people waiting to talk to them, right? You're not going to bogart their time. And if you do, you're going to get a reputation for the wrong thing. And you think we don't talk about that? You think when I'm at an event as part of the Federal Minority Business Development Agency, we don't chuckle when people come in and just try to hog our time and try to force something down our throats or say, here, take this squishy toy. Here, take this. It's got our branding on it. No, that's not how you build a rapport, right? It built the opposite rapport. And trust me, that person is probably going to try to avoid you in the future. That's not how it's done. But we get their information, we take it back, we do our research. And I have other slides on that. But these are the different types of events with the type of people who are going to be there, the titles. So a lot of times when we approach an event, we don't know the title of the individual we're targeting. That's terrible. Because when a company comes to me or talks to one of my friends at a governmental agency and I hear them and they go, Andre, I'm in IT. Hear me out. I love you all in IT, but most of you all don't know what you do in IT. You try to tell me you do everything in IT. Let me not pick on IT. Let me pick on cyber, which is a division of IT. But I'm going to pick on cyber because I have a lot of companies that come to me and say, hey, we do cyber. What level of cyber is my response? And they'll go, what do you mean? And as soon as they say that, I know I got you. I know you don't know what you do. I said, what level of cyber do you do? And you go, well, yeah, whatever. And I go, oh, can you stop a cyber attack at the satellite level? Oh, no, we don't do that. Oh, okay. Do you do penetration testing at the corporate level? No, not really, not really. Okay, what level of cyber do you do? Well, we come in and we talk about, security at the desktop level. Okay, there's no shame in that, but don't mislead because what you've done is you've just deleted all your credibility with me or with an organization as far as someone saying, you do cyber. These are not how you build relationships, right? Now, if you came into me and you said, hey, we do cyber, we do it at the desktop level, um, you may or may not need that, but would love to have a conversation with you. That is fair. We can start to build a relationship. And then I can share with you, yeah, our IT department pretty much does all of that. Now you have to have a rebuttal and say, yeah, is there ever any overages or any overlap time that IT can't handle or those? And I would go, yeah, that does happen sometime. Then you have the information. Then you can follow up with a conversation with me without selling. Don't sell me. You can have another conversation and you can get to know me and I can get to feel comfortable in your ability at your ability. Okay. But if you come in and you misrepresent, you have destroyed all credibility for a very, very, very long time. And we don't think about that because we're not used to being in that arena. We don't realize sometimes that the executives think a little bit differently than we do because we're technicians. And so we do the work where the executives are management, executive level management, and they don't actually put hammer to nail. So their thought process is a lot different than ours. So you have to meet us halfway on how we're going to do this, right? Just sharing with you. Town hall meetings, right? See where it says small business personnel, right? Or what we also know as small business liaison officers, depending on how long you've been around, or they could be SBSs, right? SBS, small business specialists, right? In the corporate arena. Now, these folks are great folks, right? But they don't write checks, right? So, but they do respond to us. They do talk to us. They do call us back. They do those things. And we get on what's called a merry-go-round. And year after year, we talk to the same people, but we never penetrate past that, right? Because you're building a relationship with the wrong person, right? So let's just keep these in mind. Here's another one for pre-sale meetings and that kind of stuff. Now, capability briefings. If you come to the MBDA, we can sit down and we can work through this and I can show you and illustrate and even actually have you talk to some executives if that's what you want to do, right? To see what they really think of how we build relationships with these folks, right? Now, you go through all of this. Here's what's the craziest thing. You go through all of this and here's what you end up with. You end up with business cards, right? Then guess what? Even if you've done the first part correctly, here's where your failure point happens. This is exactly why I get so tense about this. This is where the failure point happens. So you come back from the event and you call someone on this list, right? Or you call me, right? And then one thing, if you didn't do a good job of laying the groundwork, I'm not going to remember who you are to start with, just so you know. Right? But you say, Andre, hey, we were at this event together. You were super busy. I'm the one who does the squishy toys. And I just wanted to catch back up with you. Okay, great. Hey, Andre, I did look at you all's website. I did try to do a little homework. I see that the MBDA roughly has 130 different centers around the country, and they're broken off into basically 3 categories. And I just wanted to ask a few questions about those. That is a very, very intelligent question. right? And you and I are going to talk. You might even end up having coffee together, right? To build that rapport, right? To sit down and start that relationship. But if you call me and you say, hey, Andre, just like yesterday, call me, hey, Andre, where do you go? He goes, hey, Andre, what's up? This is such and such. And in my mind, I'm racking my brain going, who in that? Who, who, right? He goes, hey, I know you, da, 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 da. And then I had to read him the riot act, right? Because then I was just like, I'm sorry, let me be frank. What do you do, right? And how do you work with organizations such as ours? And he told me, and I go, okay, first of all, I know you have never worked with an organization such as us because we don't do that kind of operation. No credibility. We're done. Conversation's over. I will remember this young man. I won't remember his name, but if I ever hear his company name again, I have nothing to do with this guy, right? And unfortunately, that happens a lot of times with salespeople. But once you do that, that rapport, that relationship is destroyed. It is destroyed, and it's not going to come back. If you come approaching me, currently today, I'm white shirts, cufflinks, right? Just for you all, right? I'm at an event, and you come to me. I know maybe you were on site, right? You come to me, you were on site. Now, I know that you have work to do, but I also know this. I'm not going to introduce you to my CEO or my deputy director or executive director up in Washington, D.C., looking like you just came off site. Don't really care, right? Because my reputation's on it. Now, we're talking about building relationships and rapport.
What happened here? You froze?
I think is that you, Carly? I think Andre's screen froze.
Yeah, I see that.
Do you want to send me over the slides and I can share them on my end, or is his camera froze as well?
Yeah, it seems like it froze, and he's in the office where that probably wasn't supposed to happen.
Let's give him a second to see if he can get on back. Sandra, are you on? Can I put you on the spot and see if you'd like to come on a few minutes early to talk about B-side?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yes, just let me know if I need to share my screen.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a minute while Andre hopefully gets back with us. Sandra is our partner from B-Side Fund and B-Side Capital, and she's going to just take a couple of minutes to talk about what they can offer for your businesses as far as financing.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. So stay with me 1 second. Okay, can you all see my screen now?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's try this. How about now?
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. My name is Sandra Lopez. I'm loan officer here at BSI Fund. We're a nonprofit lender helping small businesses for over 30 years. Currently, we operate in Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. And our mission is to foster the economic growth of these diverse small businesses. We work along to businesses that don't qualify to traditional banking options or have been denied by banks for different reasons. The primary focus of our programs is help you business to receive that finance if you are unable to qualify through other funding sources. Through our programs, we have financed more than 76 business loans for more than 23 million. And through our programs, we have been helping create multiple jobs in our economy, which we will feel very happy about that. In terms of our programs and what we are able to do here at BSI Fund, As I mentioned, majority of our programs are focused for small businesses that can't qualify to traditional banking. We have different funding available for those businesses, and the loans can be from 20,000 up to 350,000. The amortization term will vary depending on the loan that you are requesting, but it's usually between 3 years up to a maximum of 10 years. And the interest rate will also vary on the program. The lowest interest rate that we have currently is 6.35, and the maximum interest rate that we are offering is up to 13%. Our programs don't have any prepayment penalties, so you are welcome to make extra payments if you prefer. And in terms of use of funds, our programs can allow business to receive working capital or finance equipment inventory. We do a lot of business acquisitions and also debt refinance. There is some eligibility requirements that a small business will have to meet, which include any owner that owns 20% or more of the business will be a personal guarantor. We do file and use CC lien in all business assets that are available. In most cases, we like to see at least a 10% equity injection from the borrower, but that can be waived in some specific programs as debt refinance. And insurance as well can also vary depending on the amount that you are requesting. Another general eligibility criteria are including businesses that are based in the United States that are on 51% or more by a USA citizen or legal permanent resident. And we want to see the business have been operating at least for 6 months before they submit the application. The minimum credit score that we have currently in our policy is 630. However, we do work with different programs and explore other options if borrowers have a lower credit score. Most likely, we also want to see that you are current with all of your personal and business accounts. Of course, we understand that situations can occur and maybe business or personal credit are lower or have any past dues, bankruptcy. We want to see a little more information on that, and we explore different ways how we can collaborate with you to help you improve your credit, and hopefully you will become that loan ready for one of our programs. As well to financial projections, which is something that BSI also review for businesses that have been operating for 1 year. We want to see at least 1 year or 2 years of financial projections. And general benefits of our programs. As I mentioned, we do support businesses that don't qualify to traditional banking options that have low down payment options. As you might know, lenders might only finance 90% or 80% of the total cost of the project. We want to be able to finance at least 90% or more of that project. We have different repayment options for small businesses. Also businesses that have lack of collateral or don't have any assets to secure the loan. That's no reason why the loan will be declined. We can work with you and explore other options to help you get that finance in place. But we also want to see businesses that are creating jobs in our economy, that are supporting our community in different ways. So we would love to learn more about what your business does, what are your services or products that you are offering that can contribute to that. I think the most important point, especially during this economy, is the interest rate. So we do try to have very competitive rates for small businesses, especially during this time, and also offering there with other resources when we are unable to qualify loans for different reasons, what other resources are out there that can help them out as well. And the applications process is very easy. They will submit an application through our website at bsidefund.org. Once the application is complete, we will collect financial information to review the file. And we do have a loan review committee that approve our applications. The average time, I would say, is 1 or 2 weeks. Sometimes applications go a little more faster depending on the borrower diligence to complete all the paperwork and sign up all the forms. But you can find more information in our website at bsidefund.org. We have great resources available. This year we launched BSide University, which is offering technical assistance and free webinars with different topics about small businesses resources. So feel free to review those in our website at bsidefund.org. And finally, I will leave my contact information there as well to the email to some of my colleagues. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like to learn more about BSI. I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra. So we will send out a copy of Sandra's slides as well as her contact information after the webinar. Looks like Andre's back on, so I'm going to give him a chance to pick up where he left. But before we do that, please feel free to put any questions for Sandra in the Q&A box, and she can answer those. I'm not seeing that anyone's put in. Okay, I'm not seeing that anyone has put anything in so far. So thank you so much for hopping in before you were
You're very
supposed
welcome.
to.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. All right, Andre, are you back and running?
Yeah, yeah, I
All right.
am. Life is awesome. There's gremlins, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing I can do about it. But let's see, can we get back into this, right? Can you see my screen?
Yep, we're back and
All
running.
right.
Thanks.
So what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up, right? So one of the other things that I want to talk about is what actually happens that destroys your credibility, right? People are people. So be it that it's a Fortune level corporation, a global 5,000, which is a little smaller, or just a major corporation, or even a small business that's grown to a certain point, we look for different things, right? So one of the big things that I hear when I'm talking to at events or even talking to big corporations and I make an introduction, the you don't know who you're trying to sell to, right? You don't know the name, the title, the department. You don't understand who would buy your product. And I hear it a lot, more than you can ever imagine. But hear me out. The first thing you have to realize is when you meet someone, if you're actually pitching them, no matter how you're pitching them, you're actually asking them to do work for you. That's what you're actually asking them to do. Now, you don't realize that because we give such little credibility to networking or whatever you want to call it, right? But when I say who would normally buy your product, and if you're a client of the MBDA, you've heard me say this, who would buy your product? And you go, well, IT. Well, IT is massive. Who in IT? What division of IT? Well, you know, I don't know. It depends. That's a terrible answer. Because here's what I will make the assumption. If you told me, let's play around with cyber again, right? If you told me that you deal with cyber, right, and you specialize in desktop operations, at least I know that you're good at something. At least I know that you're professional and you know what you're doing, and I'm not going to be embarrassed, right? Because you're good at something. You're an expert at something. Let me not say good, but you're an expert at something, right? That will carry you a lot further in building this relationship with me as an executive if you know where you're trying to get to. If you're asking me to do work and you don't know where you want me to send you to, just send you to IT. And I said, well, who in IT would you speak to? The CIO? No, 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 no. The CIO and me are they may or may not even know who I am. There's multiple CIOs at major corporations, right? So you have to be really on point when you ask for a division head, right? Remember, you're asking me for something, so you have to know this. And people argue me down. Andre, I don't have to. Yeah. Okay. You're not gonna get any more help from me, right? Come offering a niche or competitive advantage. One of the other things you also have to realize, if it's a major corporation or a medium-sized corporation, a medium-sized corporation is still 100 million to $1 billion, right? So a medium-sized corporation, you have to remember, they got to that size by already having what they need. Ain't that amazing? They got to that size because they already have it. So if you didn't invent it, or it's proprietary in nature, if they needed it, they probably already had it, right? And so here you come looking to sell whatever you have, which we already have, but you didn't ask the question to say, Andre, do you already purchase this? What division purchases this, right? We sell X, we sell it to division X, Y, Z, and T, right? That is how you're going to build this rapport. This is how I'm going to know that you're professional enough and you're, for me to go put myself on the line, because a lot of people at these organizations have been burned before, just so you know. Perform the registrations if you need it, if required, and we'll talk about that on a different session, on a different day, and a different time, right? So the other thing we want to do is 3 things that you should know about yourself, right? You absolutely have to know the industry and your specialty. You absolutely, because this is all credibility. Because when I'm hanging out with some of my buddies from major corporations, right? And they go, Andre, and they do, they actually do. They say, hey, Andre, or even major agencies, hey, we're looking for a construction firm that can do this. And I'll honestly say, what's the bonding level? What level do you need? What specialty? They'll say, as an example, we need someone who can do sod, who can bond at least $1 million. Okay, then I'll go in my database and I'll take a look, right? Now, you hear what I said, that's a special, right? You know your industry, you know that, and I will call you based on that. But if you call me, you say you're a general landscaper, right? And I say, okay, great, what do you specialize in? Oh, we can do it all. You wouldn't get that call from me. That's something you should understand. You wouldn't get that, and you wouldn't get it from the other agency because they're looking for people that they feel comfortable with. I wouldn't say they know, like, and trust you, right? But they trust that your work will get done. That's what we're looking at, right? And to build that relationship is not just a sale. It's the before the sale. It's the after the sale. It's the, I'm going to introduce you to people that I normally don't speak to that much in a corporation type of relationship, right? That is the type of relationship that we're shooting for, right? And not the here today, gone tomorrow relationship that a lot of us tend to do. We'll shake hands with someone and go, hey, this is what I do, da 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 da, make 1 or 2 phone calls, never talk to them again, never see them at another event. Those are not what we're talking about building relationships with. But that's what most of us do. And I can say it 20 years ago, because I've been in business over 25, 20 years ago, I didn't know any better either, right? So just trying to help everybody understand when you're trying to build this relationship, it's amazing. And the best feeling is when you go to an event and a major corporation or governmental agency go, hey, Andre, hey, how you doing? And they come over, shake your hand because they're trying to get away from somebody else. And they come and they shake your hand, they want to sit and they want to talk to you. That is pretty cool, right? Or they call you up and they go, hey, Andre, I got a question for you. Hey, can you help me with this? I've had that happen just a couple of times in the last month. Unfortunately, the corporation, global corporation, it's not really my expertise. Here's the data, right? And I gave them some data, and it was just like, well, can you help us implement this? I go, well, that's not really my expertise. That's not really my lane. And they go, I understand, but hey, we'll appreciate this. We'll keep you posted. That's a relationship. That's what we're aiming for. All this stuff about giving away stuff for free and all of this kind of stuff really doesn't build relationships, right? Know what division, what department, what title. Oh my God, don't get me started on the title. I'll ask people if they don't know the department or whatever, I'll say, what title do you normally sell to? And they'll say, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, how long you been in business? Well, we've been in business for 10 years. Okay, well, you must have sold to somebody. What was the title? And they go, well, it depends. You know, as far as building a rapport, it makes it hard. It makes it really, really difficult for me to put myself on the line or any of my counterparts to put themselves on the line, right? But once you have established this and then we feel comfortable, then we feel comfortable, right? And then when we're out somewhere, let's say we're at an event. So the Denver, the Colorado event circuit for governmental contracting for Fortune level corporations is very small. Relatively speaking, it's very small. So if you're in this circle, you'll see the same people over and over and over again, right? But then you have to ask yourself 1 or 2 things. I see the same person over and over and over again, but I never got past them. Why not? Because you didn't ask the right questions. You didn't gather the right information. You didn't figure out how you could help. I'm just playing with our buddies over at Denver Public Schools. You didn't figure out how you could help Denver Public Schools. You're just trying to sell me janitorial equipment. Okay, I'm fine with that because we need janitorial equipment. But you never asked me what kind of contract already exists there. You never asked me, how long does that contract exist? Are all the schools on one contract? You never asked any of that. So I think, believe it or not, sometimes we think you just don't care because you're in for the quick sale, and we all know here today, gone tomorrow. right? We all realize that. So trying to defeat that and build this relationship with these organizations, it's just like with anything. Believe it or not, that relationship has to be nurtured without trying to sell me. It's okay to see me at an event and just shake my hands. Hey, it's good to see you, right? Because then I'll remember that. And when you call me down the road and you go, hey, Andre, hey, I was at DPS and, I couldn't remember the young lady's name. I'm like, hold on for a second. Oh, it was Jennifer. It was Jenny, right? I'll do that. And that is about building these relationships. And slow is fast. If you were ever in the military, we know that term, slow is fast, right? So if you want to build this rapport, you want to build this relationship with us, right? Or with any corporation. One, we have the element of familiarity. I've seen you at different events, right? So I've seen you at different events. I'm familiar with you. I'm comfortable with you, right? Every time I see you, you're not harping on me, right? That's the start of the relationship. Then I start to see us as equal, right? At a certain degree. I start to see you as equal, or I might even see you above here and I'm here. I don't do that much because I deal with major corporations and governmental agencies, and I think I put my pants on just like they do, right? But that, as far as building a relationship, is what we do. What you do is you have some questions on the thing here that everyone should be able to answer. You should be able to answer these to yourself, right? Here's what I was saying about networking. There's chamber networking, there's event networking, and then there's very high level networking at the golf thing or at the whatever, where we really build these tight relationships. I was just in Miami with some folks, right? I've seen them 3 years in a row, and they're coming up to me and going, "Hey, Andre, how you?" And we're just starting this conversation. But now I can pick up the phone anytime and go, "Hey, man, and I can say this because we've built that rapport. Hey, I got a question for you, right? And that is my preference of how I speak to people. Hey, I got a question for you, right? And we can have this intelligent conversation. And that this whole thing about shaking hands and getting cards and pounding the phone, there's a role for it. But at this level, it doesn't work that way. It truly does not work that way, right? Now, rapport, very important because it's the start of a relationship. You have to understand what a rapport is. A rapport is just familiarity with someone, right? A relationship characterized by an agreement, a mutual understanding. When we say mutual understanding, that just means I'm not threatened of you coming around me. I feel comfortable if you come around me. That's a rapport. I've been at places and networking events, a little higher level networking events, enjoying a libation. And I'm sitting here talking to the VP of a major corporation, and we're just sitting here chit-chatting. I'll go, we'll introduce, hey, Andre Hargrave, they introduced themselves. We're just sitting there, talking. I go, out of curiosity, what'd you say you do? And they go, oh, I'm the VP or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's great. Awesome. I didn't jump all over them. I didn't like, oh, nope. I just went, oh, that's awesome. And we sat there 30, 40 minutes 30 minutes or so and just chit chatted and stuff like that. And they moved on. I'm not offended, right? They may ask me for my business card, but I didn't offer my business card. If they wanted it, they go, hey, Andre, hey, give me your business card. How would I get in touch with you? Here you go, right? I didn't push it, right? And so then I'll see them at another networking event, and our relationship is so much closer where I can ask those right questions, where I can get invited. Like I got invited to an event just last week. I get a phone call and it says, hey, Andre, we're having this event. We want you to be there. Also, can you bring 8 other companies? Sure, I'll find 8 other companies. And who did we choose? We chose the companies that we felt comfortable with, right? That's what we're talking about. And we're getting close to the end here. Because I am going to send these out. Here's some of the other things about building a rapport that you need to understand, and look at yourself when you look at this, and just be open with yourself. Active listening, right? Most of us don't listen. We don't listen. And you know how I know we don't listen? My wife tells me all the time, you don't listen, right? So I know that conscious listening isn't something that's natural for me, right? So I have to make a conscious effort. I got to stop. I got to turn my phone off. I got to look at the person. I got to be naturally inquisitive to what you do to make that person feel important to me. Not overly, but just make them feel that I care, because I do care. I do care what you do. I do care that you had 3 kids last time we talked, and one was becoming potty trained, and I see you at this event and I go, how'd it go? Did you make it? Did you get them potty trained? Right? It's just not putting too much into it, just building this relationship. Authenticity. most of us aren't genuine. We're not genuine with ourselves, so we're not genuine with everyone else. You know, I'm genuine because, at least I try to be, because I know where I come from. I know where I come from, right? I know where I'm at today. I know where I'm come from. I'm not putting on airs, right? Because they're too hard to keep up, right? So I'm gonna have this conversation with you. I'm not gonna pretend like, you know, I'm doing, you know, I'm up in Washington, D.C. all the time, because I'm not. I don't like going to, got nothing against D.C., but it's not the place where I like to do most of my business development, right? Body language, you know, positive attitude. A lot of times we've been so beaten down that we don't have a positive attitude, right? And it comes across. And I've had buyers from other corporations come to me and go, man, that person's negative. I just smile and chuckle and go out, hey, maybe they're just having a bad day, right? I don't know, right? So it's those kind of things. Here's some other things that you have to take a look at as far as establishing these relationships, right? Focus on the relationship. When I see a lot of buyers and stuff from other organizations, I do go out of my way to go shake their hand, right? So they'll be in a conversation. I'll go shake their hand and be like, hey, just wanted to come say hello. You know, I like tap them on the shoulder, you know, good to see you. And I'll keep moving. I'm not going to interject myself into their conversation unless they say, hey, Andre, come on back here. Hey, man, got a question for you, right? But by me just acknowledging their existence, you know, just being there, building that relationship, right? It doesn't take that long to do it. They grow and they'll be like, oh, okay, this is a good guy. This is a good person here, right? That is the start of building a relationship, right? But then there's this one last thing we're going to talk about before. Here's some other things, right? The one last thing I'm going to talk about before is building a relationship between you and that individual and your company and another entity. They're different. When you build relationships when we go out and build relationships, we primarily building them face to face, person to person, which doesn't transcribe into anything else. So if you and I build that relationship doesn't carry over to your salesperson. You and I have a relationship. Me and that individual doesn't have a relationship, or vice versa. I build a relationship with your salesperson, but I don't have a relationship with you. And we have a contract, and that salesperson leaves. My relationship was with that person, right? So then chances are our relationship is going to within the business aspect of that contract is going to start to deteriorate because my relationship was with that individual because you and I never built one. Then you can have the essence of a relationship of the corporation. I know this corporation does good work because other than me and you meeting, I've worked with other people in your organization, not just you. So I know the organization is solid, right? That's the other type of relationship people want to build, but there's a difference between the two. So I know corporations, companies that I will look at, I'm looking at the time, and instantly say that's a good company. Or I can look at a person and go instantly, that's a good person, right? That is what we're trying to build with these relationships. So what I'm going to do is we got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to open it up. I'm sorry for the gremlin attack. You know, if any of you, depending on how old you are, you might remember the old Bugs Bunny cartoons with the gremlins. So, but with that said, let's open it up. If you have any questions for me, I'm inviting everyone to come to the MBDA and let's talk about this. We'll sit in the conference room and I'll show you who sits first, who sits second. Where do you sit? Where don't you sit? What don't you do? What do you do? And these are all things that people have told me about people looking at their cell phones, sitting in the CEO's seat, all of these kind of things that you don't get a second shot, right? So let's talk about it. Building the relationship is stronger than anything else. So like I said, even if they don't need your product or service now, it's okay because you got the relationship and they will remember you. That's what we're trying to do, opposed to the sale. So maybe on the next one, we'll talk about the sale itself and how to do that, right? At this high level. But right now, we're just talking about some of the do's and don'ts when you meet these executives. Where do you meet them? How do you meet them? And those kind of things. So it's opened up. If there's any questions, please ask me. Come to the MBDA, and let's talk about it. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just gonna say thank you, Andre. We're at the end of our time, so we'll go ahead and close out the webinar, but we will be sending you a recording of this webinar as well as a copy of Andre's slides. We will also have a link in there where you can fill out a PDF to meet with Andre and his team. I also wanted to say that on June, I will include this in the email, but June 26th and June 27th, we will have 2 more webinars on bonding, bonding part 1 and bonding part 2. So we will include that information as well, and we hope that you will join us for that.
And I won't be on it, so I won't have the technical issues.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for coming, everyone. We will follow up this afternoon. Thank you,
Thank
Andre.
you. Thank you.